Welcome back to the deep dive. Okay, today we're jumping straight in with a question that honestly, it feels like it's built into our minds the moment we think about, well, beginnings. You know, the one, it comes up in so many discussions we've seen in the source materials you sent. If God created everything, then who created God?
It really is the classic puzzle, isn't it?
Absolutely. And what struck me immediately from the texts, especially that Hadith reference, is how long people have wrestled with this. It's not some modern invention.
No, not at all. It seems to be a really fundamental, almost inevitable human question when you start pondering ultimate origins.
So our mission today, as I understand it, is to kind of unpack why that question feels so natural, but also why, when applied to the concept of the creator in these texts, it sets up a kind of logical trap.
Exactly. We need to explore that trap, the infinite regress problem it creates, and then look at the core concept, the defining characteristic that these sources use to resolve it. What makes the ultimate source fundamentally different?
Right. Let's get into that maze then, because you're right. Our first instinct is always cause and effect. Section 1. The logical trap of this never-ending chain. I mean, everything we see works like this. You see a flower. You know, it came from a seed. That seed came from a parent flower. We are just hardwired to ask, okay, well, what came before that?
Yeah.
That's how we learn how we understand the world.
And that process, that cause and effect logic, it works perfectly for everything within the created universe. Every object, every event seems dependent on a prior cause. But the moment you try to apply that same rule that everything needs a prior cause to the ultimate source itself, well, that's where logic hits a snag. It's called the infinite regress.
Infinite regress, okay.
Yeah, think about it. If God needed a creator, let's call that creator X.
Okay.
Then creator X, by the same logic, must also need a creator, right? Let's say creator Y.
And Y needs Z and...
Exactly. It goes on forever. Backwards. An endless chain of creators creating creators. It's dizzying just to think about.
Kind of makes your head spin. And the implication is, if it truly goes on forever,
Then nothing could ever have actually started. If every single thing requires something before it, you never reach a beginning. The whole chain couldn't logically get off the ground.
that's the crucial point, isn't it? The very fact that things do exist now, that we're here talking about it, seems to demand that the chain can't be infinite. It has to stop somewhere.
Precisely. There must be a true starting point, something that operates under a different principle.
So, okay, this forces us to make a distinction. The creator, if they are the actual beginning, can't just be another link in that same causal chain. Otherwise, like you said, we're just back where we started. But here's where I sometimes get stuck, and maybe you, the listener, do too. Isn't just saying the creator is different, that they don't need a cause. Isn't that just defining the problem away? Like, assuming the answer.
That's a really important challenge, a fair one. But the perspective in these texts isn't so much assuming an answer as it is identifying what seems to be a logical necessity that arises from observing creation itself. If things exist that are dependent, there must be something that isn't. The sources argue that the only kind of being capable of initiating that chain of dependent existence has to be, by its very nature, the end of that dependency line.
The end of the line.
Yeah. This is where the concept of self-subsistence comes in. Or self-existence.
Self-assistance, okay.
It means existing. Well,
Yeah.
existing entirely on its own accord. Not needing any prior cause, any external source for its being. Think about everything else we observe. Planets, people, plants, even energy.
They all depend on something else.
Right. They're all contingent. They need sunlight or nutrients or physical laws or prior energy states to exist and continue existing. The creator, by definition in these sources, is the only entity that isn't contingent. It doesn't depend on anything. It is the ultimate source, not an effect of something prior. Its existence is inherent to what it is.
Okay, I follow the logic, the necessity for an uncaused cause. But that idea, self-subsistence, it still feels quite abstract. Because our entire experience is dependency, right? Everything relies on something else.
Yeah.
So let's make it more concrete. The analogies you pulled from the texts are really helpful here. Let's start with the train, locomotive analogy.
Ah, yes, the train. It's a great way to visualize this difference between dependence and independence.
So picture this huge, long freight train, maybe miles of wagons stretching back. How does the whole thing move?
Okay, let's break it down. All those wagons, trailing behind the engine, they represent created things, effects, dependent things.
Right.
Any single wagon only moves because the one directly in front of it is pulling it. It's completely dependent on the wagon ahead.
You can trace that pull all the way down the line.
Exactly. You keep asking, what's moving this wagon? And the answer is always the one in front. You're just
Yeah.
following the chain of dependency.
Eventually.
Eventually, you get to the very front, and you find something fundamentally different: the locomotive, the engine. In this analogy, the engine represents the self-subsistent creator. It doesn't need another wagon in front of it to pull it.
It makes its own power.
Precisely. It generates its own motion. It's the source of the movement for the entire train of dependent wagons behind it. Its relationship to the movement is generative, not just responsive like the wagons.
Okay, that makes sense. The engine starts the whole chain reaction of pulling.
Yeah.
But let me push on this analogy a little because someone listening might think this.
Sure.
Even the engine needs fuel, right? And an engineer designed it, built it. So isn't the engine also dependent in some ways?
Yeah.
How does the concept of the creator get beyond even those dependencies?
That's a very sharp point, and it actually helps clarify the limits of the analogy versus the core concept. In our physical world, yes, even the most powerful engine relies on external fuel, materials, design. It's still part of a larger system of dependencies. But the creator, as defined in these theological frameworks, isn't just the most powerful engine within the system. The creator is understood as the fundamental reality whose power is inherent, whose existence isn't contingent on anything external. It's the necessary, sufficient, non-contingent source that makes the entire system, the train, the fuel, the tracks, the laws of physics, allowing it all possible in the first place.
Ah, okay, so the analogy helps us grasp the role of being the initiator, the self-mover, even if physical engines still have their own dependencies.
Exactly. It illustrates the functional difference required at the start of any dependent chain.
So translating the original question, who created God,
Yeah.
into this analogy, it's like asking.
It's like pointing at the locomotive, the engine that's pulling everything, and asking, okay, but what wagon is pulling the engine?
The question misunderstands the engine's role.
Precisely. It misapplies the rule of the wagon's dependency to the one thing defined by its lack of dependency in that system. The necessary answer, based on the analogy's logic, has to be nothing is pulling the engine. Its function is to be the self-powered source.
Okay.
Eh?
So the creator is that independent source, the thing required, so the whole chain doesn't just collapse into meaninglessness or non-existence.
That's the idea. The uncaused cause prevents the logical absurdity of an infinite regress.
That analogy really clarifies the causation aspect, the starting point. Now let's shift gears slightly with the second analogy, which tackles it from a different angle, not just motion, but inherent value and sustained existence, the zeros and the one.
Yes, this one moves from initiation to perhaps sustenance and value.
How does thinking about numbers, specifically 0 and 1, help us grasp this?
Well, think of all created things, everything in the universe, all the matter, energy, life as being like the number 0.
0, okay.
Right.
Why 0?
Because on their own, zeros have no intrinsic value or substance in a mathematical sense. You can have 1 0, a million zeros, an infinite line of zeros. Add them all up, and what do you get?
Still 0.
Exactly. They are inherently dependent on something else to give them significance, to give them actual value. Without a non-zero value somewhere, they represent, well, nothingness in a way. Potential without actuality.
So all of creation, in this analogy, is like a collection of zeros needing something else.
Yes, and God in this analogy is the one, the sustainer.
The one, yeah.
It's only when that one, the ultimate self-existent source, is placed, metaphorically speaking, before the zeros that they suddenly acquire real value, real existence, real order. The one turns that potential nothingness, thousand rows, into something meaningful, like 1 million.
Ah, I see. So the one isn't just starting the count. It's actively giving value and sustained reality to everything that follows it.
That's the concept. It's about sustenance, about providing the ongoing reality and value for the dependent zeros. Without the one, the zeros revert to meaninglessness.
That also helps put those secondary causes we observe into perspective. Things like, fire burning wood or gravity holding planets in orbit. How do they fit in with the one and the zeros?
That's a great connection. Those secondary causes, fire, gravity, biological processes, are seen not as independent powers, but as the consistent rules or mechanisms through which the one sustains the reality of the zeros. They're the observable ways God's sustaining power operates in the created world.
So they aren't fundamental causes themselves?
According to these sources, no. They're the means by which the fundamental cause operates predictably. The text might say God doesn't need fire to make wood burn, Rather, God continuously wills fire to have the property of burning and wood to have the property of being burnable.
So we need those observable laws to understand and navigate the world.
Exactly. We rely on observing these consistencies, these rules, to make sense of the reality God sustains. But the ultimate power, the ultimate cause, resides with the one, the sustainer, not within the dependent zeros or the rules governing them.
Okay, that distinction is really clear now. The observable system works, it's reliable for us, but it doesn't constrain the primary cause, the one. That source exists outside that system of dependency. So let's try and bring this all together for you listening. The reason that big question, who created God, finds its resolution in these texts isn't by finding another creator.
Right.
It's by understanding that the very definition of creator, the ultimate source, logically must be different. It must be the non-dependent primary cause. To ask what created that is, in a way, a category error. It's applying the rules of created things to the uncreated source.
It misunderstands the foundational nature of that source.
And so the answer we arrive at, drawing directly from these sources, is fundamentally simple, even if the concept is profound. No one created God. God is that singular self-existent source, existing entirely independently, the necessary starting point without which nothing else could exist. That very independence is what defines God as the creator.
And perhaps, connecting this back, here's something to think about after this discussion. If everything you encounter in your daily life, every cause and effect, every dependency, from the air you breathe to the job that pays your bills, if all of that is like the wagons or the zero,
Dependent links in the chain.
what does it truly mean to conceive of that single, utterly independent source? That locomotive, that one which isn't just starting the chain, but actively sustaining the entire system, including you, right now.
Reflecting on that nature of existence without dependency.
Exactly. Reflecting on that might help you grasp, perhaps on a deeper level, why the concept of the creator, by necessity, must be fundamentally uncreated. It's the bedrock upon which all dependency rests.